Anyone who sees this forbidden statue will be executed to contain the curse that haunts the village. The film opens by showing a man named Eric being captured by a group of people and taken to a mysterious place. Without knowing the reason behind their actions, Eric suddenly finds himself tightly bound to a cross, dressed in white clothing, with a mask placed directly over his face. The scene then shifts to a woman named Carmen, who works as a journalist. Carmen regularly produces news reports and delivers accurate information to the public. Every day she is required to gather and present news using reliable sources, and her work is broadcast through various media such as newspapers, magazines, and television so that the information she compiles can reach a wide audience. Because she is extremely busy with her job, Carmen's boyfriend, Marcus, often feels annoyed since Carmen frequently neglects their time together due to her intense focus on work.
Read your article.
Article?
Well, what do you want to talk about? I'm gonna get going.
No, seriously, what is...
The next day at the office, Carmen's boss, Dale, asks her to prepare a report and collect information about beekeepers in the Omaha area, whose bees have suddenly disappeared without explanation and have not returned to their hives, causing about 20% of crops to go unpollinated. Unfortunately, Carmen is not interested in the topic suggested by her boss and wants to replace it with a subject she finds far more compelling. She plans to create a report about the disappearance of Eric, who was last seen at a motel in Koski, Poland. There are reports that over the past 50 years, 6 tourists have gone missing in that area, and what is most suspicious is that after their disappearance, their belongings were found scattered across different locations in Eastern Europe. Carmen has already communicated with Eric's mother, Laura, and obtained information that one of Eric's belongings was found in the Czech Republic, which contradicts police records stating that Eric had never visited the country. Even though Carmen explains the entire missing persons case to Dale, he shows no interest and refuses to give her permission to investigate the disappearance of the tourists further, insisting that missing persons cases should be handled by the police. Dale continues to pressure Carmen to pursue the original topic he assigned, and hearing his statement makes Carmen lose her enthusiasm. Despite Dale's refusal, she remains determined to secretly work on the story of Eric and the 5 other missing tourists without his knowledge. Carmen, along with her intern assistant named Sarah, rushes to Laura's house to ask several questions. Upon arrival, Carmen and Sarah are warmly welcomed by Laura. Since Eric's disappearance, Laura has been living alone as her husband Jim Taylor passed away 5 years earlier. Laura shares many details, explaining that although the police attempted to search for Eric, the lack of concrete evidence hindered the investigation, and Eric was eventually officially listed as a missing person. It becomes clear that the authorities' handling of Eric's disappearance has not been fully effective. Laura also describes Eric's physical characteristics, including a tattoo on one of his arms, and tells them that all of Eric's belongings that went missing during his trip to Poland were later found in various different regions. After hearing this, Carmen asks for permission to see Eric's belongings in hopes of finding clues that could help uncover the mystery behind his disappearance. Laura agrees and asks Carmen to go up to Eric's bedroom on the upper floor alone, because if Laura were to accompany her, she would not be able to hold back her tears upon seeing Eric's belongings in his room. Carmen immediately goes upstairs to Eric's bedroom. There, she finds several items such as plane tickets, money, maps, and other belongings. One item that especially catches Carmen's attention is a diary written by Eric himself. Because the diary contains many entries, Carmen realizes it would be impossible to read it all on the spot. Therefore, she asks Laura for permission to take the diary home, and Laura agrees.
Laura, could I borrow this for the time being? It's Eric's journal. Thank you for your time.
Before leaving, Carmen skims through Eric's diary, and on the final page she discovers that Eric wrote down the name of a place called Elvenia, which may be where he disappeared. After that, they return to their respective homes. While Carmen is researching documents related to Eric's disappearance, she suddenly experiences a disturbing, mystical vision in which Eric's spirit appears and says the words, "Leave me alone."
Carmen! Leave me alone!
However, it turns out to be only a dream experienced by Carmen. The next morning, Carmen meets Marcus at his workplace, where he works as a photographer. Carmen's visit is meant to invite Marcus to travel to Poland and explore interesting places together, while also trying to repair and strengthen their relationship. At first, Marcus refuses because traveling to Poland would be very far and require a lot of time and energy. Carmen then explains that besides traveling, her real purpose is to gather information for a news story in Poland about Eric's disappearance in an area called Elvenia, and Marcus could also benefit from the trip by taking photographs of the scenery in the region. After hearing Carmen's explanation, Marcus promises to consider her offer.
I appreciate that.
I think you're a great photographer.
Carmen, it sounds a little dangerous.
Could be. I'm going no matter what.
The following day, Carmen works as usual at Dale's office, where Dale gives her several documents about the topic of beekeepers whose bees have disappeared and failed to return. Although Carmen has no real interest in the topic, she pretends to accept the assignment, using it as a cover so her boss will not suspect that she is secretly working on another case. From this point on, Carmen decides to focus entirely on the mystery surrounding Eric's disappearance. In the near future, Carmen, Sarah, and Marcus plan to depart for Poland without asking for Dale's permission in order to search for evidence related to Eric's disappearance. After some time passes, Carmen, Sarah, and Marcus arrive in Poland, specifically in the rural area of Elvenia. In Eric's diary, the village is described as a strange place, with people who are indifferent, cold, and apathetic. There are no motels or inns, leaving no place to stay other than a few old warehouses that can be used as shelters. The diary also mentions something resembling black smoke above the trees, though it looks more like an extremely thick fog. After a long journey, they finally arrive in Elvenia village, where the people appear just as Eric described in his diary, showing little concern for outsiders.
Here. Pull over here.
Most of the villagers can only speak Polish. There, the three of them meet a young girl named Lydia who happens to be able to speak English. Their purpose in coming to the village is to find answers about Eric's disappearance in this place. Before Lydia can respond, a man named Daniel suddenly threatens Carmen, Marcus, and Sarah, warning them to leave immediately and stating that there will be consequences if they do not comply. Hearing this, the three of them quickly distance themselves from Daniel. Not long after, they notice a church nearby where the villagers have just finished a prayer gathering, and from afar they see black smoke exactly like what Eric described in his diary. It appears that this black smoke is what Eric was referring to, and seeing this, Carmen, Sarah, and Marcus immediately move closer toward the source of the smoke. However, their actions are eventually noticed by the villagers. Daniel and the villagers quickly force them out of the area.
Get your hands off.
Hey!
You're English? So go to England. Nothing for you here, English.
Carmen realizes that the villagers are hiding something related to the disappearance of Eric and the 5 other tourists. She asks Marcus to stop the car because she wants to return to the village, but Marcus refuses after witnessing how aggressively the villagers drove them away. Marcus fears that if they go back, their safety will be seriously threatened. It becomes clear that the villagers do not welcome foreign tourists. Since they have already traveled a long distance from America to Poland, they realize this opportunity cannot be wasted, as returning to America would take a great deal of time and money. Moreover, once they return, Dale will certainly demand a report on the beekeeping topic because he only knows that Carmen and Sarah went to Omaha to cover the story about the bees, when in fact they are actually in Poland. Hearing Carmen's confession makes Marcus furious. They traveled to Poland without permission, and this could seriously damage Carmen's career as a journalist for disobeying Dale's instructions. Carmen apologizes and explains that she wants to find out what lies inside the forest, especially after they were driven away for trying to approach the black smoke. Reluctantly, Marcus agrees to follow Carmen's request, and they enter the forest, avoiding the villagers' homes. After walking for several minutes, they finally arrive right in front of an extremely thick fog.
I can take a photo of what...
Marcus even tries to document it, but it is useless because everything is completely obscured by the fog. Strangely, the fog remains still and is not affected by the wind, as if it is concealing something inside. While Marcus and Carmen are talking, Sarah boldly enters the fog out of sheer curiosity. Seeing this, Carmen quickly follows her to prevent Sarah from getting lost.
What you're looking for is gonna get us caught.
Oh my god.
Okay, what the hell? Where is she? Sarah?
Right here. I'll go see what's going on.
After Carmen enters the fog, she finds that Sarah has already come back out in a state of fear.
Here's Carmen.
Carmen!
While Carmen continues searching for Sarah inside the fog, she discovers a mysterious statue and immediately takes out her camera to document it.
Sarah?
Suddenly, the statue begins to bleed, shocking Carmen and filling her with terror, causing her to rush back in search of a way out of the fog.
You alright?
Carmen asks Sarah what she saw inside, and Sarah explains that she also saw a statue, exactly the same as Carmen did. Not wanting to investigate further, they decide to return to the car. On the way, the three of them encounter Lydia, standing alone in the middle of the forest. Carmen asks why Lydia is there by herself, and Lydia claims that she knows where Eric is. She invites them to follow her and leads them to a secret place filled with coffins containing dead bodies. One by one, the coffins are opened until they finally discover Eric's corpse, already decomposed.
It's Eric.
Strangely, all the bodies there are wearing masks that cannot be removed from their heads.
Yeah, that's not coming off. It feels like it's attached in the center.
When Carmen tries to question Lydia about what happened to Eric and why the villagers killed him, Lydia suddenly disappears, and they realize they have been trapped. The exit door has been sealed by Lydia. Cleverly, Marcus uses a knife to pry open the wooden planks locking them in. Once the door is open, they rush out of the place, but soon realize they are surrounded by the villagers, forcing them to look for another escape route.
There was a bit of a path up here. We've just got...
Go to that barn.
Come on, Sarah. Come on!
After running for a long time to evade the villagers, they arrive at an old warehouse. There, Marcus begins arguing with Carmen, stating that traveling to Poland was a fatal mistake, especially since they have ended up in a village with an unknown origin. If something terrible happens to them, no one will come to help because the village is remote and unknown to the outside world. Carmen can only apologize, admitting that her selfishness has led them into a dangerous situation. As the warehouse becomes surrounded from all sides, Carmen, Marcus, and Sarah jump down from a height to escape, but when it is Carmen's turn, she is caught by one of the villagers. Marcus attempts to save her, but the overwhelming number of villagers makes it impossible. At the same moment, Daniel appears, holding a bow in his hands. Daniel begins aiming his bow at Sarah, and an arrow strikes Sarah's leg, causing her to fall and be immediately captured. Marcus then becomes Daniel's next target. Marcus manages to fight back and escape into the forest, but Daniel refuses to let him go, leading to a chase between them. Exhausted from running, Marcus decides to stop and fight Daniel, but unfortunately, he is easily overpowered and defeated. The three of them are then taken back to the place where Eric's body is kept. Before entering, the village leader, Alex, closely examines their faces and orders his men to separate Marcus from Carmen and Sarah. Marcus is taken to another location and forced at gunpoint to dig a grave, which is intended to be used to bury the bodies of Carmen and Sarah. Unable to do anything under threat of a weapon, Marcus waits patiently for the right moment when the guard becomes careless. When that moment finally comes, Marcus attacks the guard, knocks him unconscious, takes the pistol he was carrying, and immediately searches for Carmen and Sarah. Meanwhile, Carmen and Sarah are brought to a ritual site where their clothes are torn off and replaced with white garments, similar to what happened to Eric at the beginning of the story. Sarah is tightly bound to a cross while Carmen is locked inside a cell and forced to watch Sarah's execution.
Podejdźcie.
Before her death, Sarah begins to see the villagers' faces transform into monstrous forms.
Imię Twoje. Przyjdź królestwo.
They then prepare to place a mask similar to the one worn by Eric, featuring sharp spikes directed straight towards Sarah's eyes, which explains why the masks found on the corpses cannot be removed, as they have fused with the skulls. Using a large hammer, they force the mask onto Sarah's head, and within seconds the spikes pierce her skull, killing her instantly.
Racz jej dać, Panie, a świat... Wieczny odpoczynek.
Carmen, confused and horrified by what is happening, can only cry as she witnesses Sarah's death right in front of her eyes, overwhelmed with guilt for bringing Sarah to a village of unknown origins. After Sarah dies, her body is placed into a coffin. At that very moment, Marcus arrives and witnesses the final seconds as Sarah's body is sealed inside. Marcus feels immense relief when he realizes that his girlfriend Carmen is still alive behind the iron bars. When one of the guards opens the cell door, Marcus seizes the opportunity to fight back and escapes with Carmen. Before leaving, Marcus locks the area to slow down the villagers' pursuit. During their escape, Marcus notices Carmen vomiting, but with no time to stop, he urges her to keep running. Eventually, they reach one of the villagers' houses where they spot a truck that could be used to escape the village. Marcus and Carmen enter the house and threaten the occupants with a weapon, making it clear that they only want the truck keys and do not intend to harm anyone. Unfortunately, the family inside consists of 3 members who do not understand English and can only speak Polish, except for their youngest son, who understands a little English. When the family sees Carmen wearing white clothing, they become terrified and beg them to leave. To prevent any interference, Marcus reluctantly ties up the boy's parents. The young boy then explains to them that Marcus only wants the truck keys, and the parents inform him that the keys are located in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Carmen begins to behave very strangely, experiencing severe hallucinations similar to what Sarah went through earlier, even seeing everyone's faces transform into terrifying forms. Overcome with fear, Carmen slams the door shut to block them out. At this moment, Marcus is torn between 2 urgent priorities: finding Carmen or getting the truck keys first. Realizing that the keys are crucial for their escape, Marcus quickly heads to the kitchen with the young boy to retrieve them. Before leaving, Marcus ties the boy's hands so he cannot alert others and ruin their escape plan. Suddenly, Marcus and the boy hear loud screams coming from the parents. The boy frantically says that the woman who was with Marcus has seen the statue and begs him to free his parents. Ignoring the boy's pleas, Marcus rushes back to find Carmen, only to discover the boy's parents brutally torn apart and the boy himself lying dead in a pool of blood. At that moment, Marcus is suddenly attacked by Carmen, who has now become fully possessed by a demonic entity. Marcus is confused and horrified as Carmen viciously assaults him, her eyes and face twisted into something monstrous, clearly no longer herself. Just in time, Daniel and Alex arrive carrying a cross. It is then revealed that Alex is actually a priest whose duty is to expel evil demons. The villagers already knew that Carmen and Sarah had entered the fog and seen the cursed statue hidden within it. This is why Carmen and Sarah were captured and sentenced to death, because the villagers have long believed that anyone who sees the cursed statue will inevitably become possessed by a powerful demon. Once possessed, that person will bring disaster to everyone around them. Because Carmen and Sarah saw the statue, their bodies became easy vessels for the demon, and the villagers believed executing them was the only way to prevent the demon from fully taking control. They feared that if the demon completely possessed either woman, it would become uncontrollable and extremely dangerous. The fog surrounding Elvenia has existed for generations and has never disappeared, which is why the villagers are extremely cautious toward outsiders and try to drive tourists away as quickly as possible. Although their methods are harsh, they act cold and hostile to ensure no one stays long enough to encounter the fog and the curse tied to it. After learning the truth, Priest Alex Daniel and the remaining villagers attempt to expel the demon from Carmen's body, knowing full well that it is incredibly powerful and difficult to defeat. The only method they believe could truly stop it is killing Carmen using the ritual mask that must be permanently embedded into her face. Unfortunately, during the struggle, several villagers are killed by the demon possessing Carmen, including priest Alex, who dies after letting his guard down. Before his death, Alex asks Daniel, his senior disciple, to replace him as the village priest. Daniel and the remaining villagers continue fighting the demon, and with Marcus's help, they ultimately manage to defeat it. In the final scene, Marcus prepares to leave the village. Before departing, he asks Daniel what truly happened there and why the fog never disappears. Daniel explains that everything is the result of an ancient curse that the villagers cannot remove, and the only way to survive is to prevent others from falling victim to the cursed statue. With that, the story comes to an end.